I welcome all my co-panelists on this platform. Welcome to you. So the topic of today about the panel discussion is about reinventing digital customer experience as fundamental, the new normal for tomorrow. So I would like to share the prospects and welcome all my co-panelists and especially Mr. Rahul Chopra, Mr. Mohit Sharma, Mr. Kamlesh Vora, Mr. Srinivas Mopanal, Mr. Ashish Rao for the warm welcome.
Thank you, Puneet.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Puneet.
Thank you. Puneet, congratulations for the award.
Congrats, Puneet.
Yeah.
Congrats, Puneet, for your award.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I really look forward to share this platform so that, I can have the views shared by elite people like you. And really, it's honor to have your presence on this platform where I'm moderating this session for all of you guys. Thank you so much once again, and I welcome you on board here. So my first question about to you, Rahul, would be, how is the digital experience has become fundamental in the new normal?
Yeah. So lockdowns and pandemic driven fears have nudged millions of people to stay safe via digital transaction, we all know. Now, things like applying for loans, opening bank accounts, undertaking any financial transaction no longer need to be done in person. In a way, I would say, thanks to coronavirus pandemic, that millions of Indians have taken to digital transaction almost overnight. Consecutively, we all know that the wholly paperless end-to-end digital process that would have taken years has happened within weeks in front of us. With digital transaction becoming the norm, the role of digital channels has become far more significant than ever. Customer interaction as a result of physical distancing now it revolves around brands' digital channels. So that is very important. And interestingly, look at the UPI transaction in month of October. It crossed 2 billion in 1 month. This clearly shows that digital experience is a new normal, or I would say now it become a fundamental aspect of everything, whatever we do in terms of customer experience. So yes, I have that particular viewpoint that yes, it is becoming a new fundamental and a new norm.
Thank you, Rahul. So my next question to Kamlesh would be, Kamlesh, digital experience will replace in-person experience, making it the new normal. How will it change the customer experience?
Hi, Puneet. Your question, I kind of am not too sure whether it is really the way it would happen. Digital experiences are definitely going to be important, but will they necessarily replace the physical experience altogether? In the short run, yes, we are seeing people moving away from the physical. Like our colleague mentioned, that there is a growing fear, there is a need to stay safe, and therefore a lot of transactions have moved on the digital side. We believe that should continue to happen. But having said that, there are still a lot of transactions which have now started moving back to the physical world. Okay, so I somewhere see that the world is not necessarily going to be fully digital, but possibly the way forward may be a phygital journey. At the same time, is digital experience important, and is digital experience shaping the new customer experience? I definitely do believe so. What do I mean by that? Customers' expectations are changing and ever changing, right? It's like you are on an escalator, but instead of going up, this escalator is going down. What do I mean is, what was possibly a wow experience yesterday is no longer a wow. It may become very good to maybe just as normal as or expected or as basic. That's the way the customer expectations are changing. Today, comparisons are no longer drawn between entities. Like, for example, ये बैंक में ऐसा हुआ तो वो बैंक में ऐसा क्यों नहीं हुआ? People are now going beyond boundaries, beyond industries and comparing. So if an Amazon could do so, if an Uber could do so, why can't you do that? It doesn't matter to the customer about what your business constraints may be, what you may be in terms of your systems and processes. But all that he expects is that technology should be able to allow me to give that convenience, safety, and at the same time allow me to transact at the channel of my own choice. That's all shaping big time. Gone are the days when a customer walked in, even for example, let's say a physical channel. And I will talk about the traditional banks, for example, are a very legacy system and are really having a lot of maker-checker controls in place, and rightfully so. Which you would also see that therefore controls at the front end are limited. You need to give a lot of controls at the back end to ensure that there is a, depending on the type of transactions, you have 4i to 6i to 8i kind of audit checks in place. How do you ensure that is not what the customer expects? Customer expects that if I walked into the bank branch and I wanted to do a particular interaction or a service transactions, don't give me a ticket number. Give me an answer. Okay? Now, in the earlier era, this was all very difficult. But today, with the way technology is being rendered, and I would say that, digital is just a means. Technology is just a means, but the entire digital experience comes about by bringing the technology, the processes, the policies together, integrating them all together to be a digital first in true sense. So the minute you orchestrate these three pieces together and you say that, look, I have these constraints, but I would like to give the customer a solution on the go, you find solutions. So for example, at our bank, we have implemented where you were to walk into the branch and I would authenticate you, and with tools in place, I can give you a resolution to your request then and there. You don't need to go back with the ticket number, you go with the resolution to your solution on the physical space. On the digital world, at the same time, it's about whatever I asked for, can it be made available? Can I do it seamlessly? Could you possibly nudge me to my next transaction? Those are the kind of expectations that customers have today. And I would say that is a journey ahead of us. And what COVID has done, as our friend mentioned, has just opened up an opportunity where earlier it was more of a push from the organizations to try and push for digital adoption. Now it's a customer pulling. And therefore the changes, the demands are increasing. 2 billion is just a number, but what it also brings along with it is huge opportunities of how can we take this and make it safer, secure, and how do we ensure that these customers who are first-time migrants towards a digital continue to stay digital and don't walk back into the physical route, and they would walk back unless they find the digital process is very convenient, very friendly, very easy, very safe and secure. Now, to do that, it would mean that your entire journeys need to be re-examined end to end, identify what are the possible frictions, and kind of eliminate them. It would mean that you keep listening to the customers regularly, understand their pain, and proactively start solving it. So those are some of my thoughts on this subject.
Thank you, Kamlesh, for the insight. So that means the coexistence of physical as well as digital will be, will be coexisting together. You can say that, because to get a wow factor as we mature and as we evolve, the coexistence will definitely be evolved, right?
That's right.
Yeah, thank you for your insights. So the next query to you, Ashish, is basically you understand the digital transformation to digital, everything is the new normal now, right?
Right.
So how digital transformation is driving digital experience?
Okay.
Especially with the post-COVID-19 economy, the customer experience must be frictionless and tethered to tight security and provisioning or privacy. So I would like to have some insights from you on that.
Yeah. Thanks, Puneet, and good afternoon to everyone. A very interesting question, because all of a sudden we start thinking that customers are worried about privacy because of COVID, but the reality is they've always been worried about privacy, especially because in this kind of a market, in today's market, data is actually the king, right? We used to talk about customers being the king. They do continue to be the king, but actually data determines, and who has the better quality data actually determines who's going to rule the roost. So privacy is obviously one factor which is started sort of cropping up a lot, especially because customers are not very comfortable doing physical face-to-face kind of meetings, right? Especially in an industry like insurance, which is a push industry. Nobody wakes up in the morning. I mean, people might think about waking up and going to Kamlesh's branch and withdrawing some money, but they will not think about buying a policy. It doesn't come naturally to any customer. So in a scenario like that, uh, getting a customer to think about buying a policy from the confines of his home, etc., has actually been a bit of a toughie for the insurance sector. But thanks to the various platforms that are there, we are on one of the platforms that most companies have sort of adopted. But we've got a variety of other platforms that have come up, and every insurance company or every bank which is trying to move on to a virtual platform to do a face-to-face kind of an interaction on a virtual platform. The most important aspect that you look at is in terms of privacy of that conversation. At the end of the day, customers are comfortable talking to people when they know that the discussion is not getting recorded. It's not getting stored somewhere in some foreign cloud. It's getting stored definitely somewhere for use later on. Those kind of issues. Things that were very comfortable in the past, like handing over a physical document, which is prone to even more misuse. All of a sudden now people start wondering, if I give a scanned copy, how can that get misused, etc. So the entire gamut of looking at the new normal is to give the comfort back to the customer, saying that any kind of a interaction or transaction that you initiate with the company, be it a bank, be it a insurance company, or anybody else in the BFSI space, is all through secure channels. As long as you're using the secure channels opened up by the organization, as long as they're using those, it's always going to be secure. And there are specific audits. So, I mean, that's obviously something that we don't go out and tell the customers. But I think most companies in the BFSI space, their boards have definitely asked them to do, checks around how work from home initiatives are working, whether privacy laws are getting adhered to. We've had the recent Privacy Act also getting introduced, right? So these are ways by which the companies are actually on their toes, ensuring that none of the data or the exchanges with the customers are sort of getting compromised. And the reality in the BFSI space, especially I can talk about insurance because I've spent about 20 years here, is that while we consider it to be a push product, actually it's push at the time of sale. After that, the behavior of the customer actually changes. And the testimony to that is the kind of digital usage of transactions that our customers have sort of shown. So in the pre-COVID era, it used to be in the range of about 76-77% of transactions were self-help. Now, when I'm talking self-help, it is largely through the website or the mobile app, and some bits through the IVR, which is a very small contribution. Of the balance 24, these were typically transactions where it was something to do with the payout. So a customer had to walk into a branch to submit his payout mandate or something on those lines. In the first quarter of this financial year, actually 100% of it moved online. And what we've seen is now by the end of the first half, so in the second quarter, at the end of the September time period, we didn't see it drop as much. So even though things are sort of coming back to so-called earlier normal, still about 90% odd of the transactions that our customers are doing with us, whether it is for payouts, whether it is for premium payments, or any other things that a typical customer might want to do with a life insurance company, 90% of those transactions are still happening through digital channels. And this something called phygital, which Kamlesh alluded to, that is actually gaining a lot more importance. So people are comfortable in a fizzy or a digital mix kind of a combination as compared to pure physical. And therefore the focus again comes back to how can you give the comfort to a customer that any transaction that he does, whether it's an interaction, a transaction, a monetary transaction, a non-monetary transaction, is secure, is safe, and my data or my information is not getting compromised. So I think while we can't directly give that comfort to the customers, I think all of that information, most companies have put on their website in terms of the kind of additional things they've done to adhere to the new normal, which is physical, which is less physical, more digital, and somewhere in between that phygital aspect that has come about. That's the way I see it. In fact, just to add a couple of other points, some of the modes of interaction that we thought were, natural to customers, but a little slow on the pickup. So things like chatbots, things like WhatsApp interactions, they've just shot through the roof, and they're not showing any signs of sort of abating just because the various unlocks have been announced. I mean, our biggest channel today, after the website, is actually WhatsApp and our chatbot in terms of customer interaction. So the reality is that this is here to stay, and people will trust you when they see some kind of testimonials that you keep putting up on your various channels. You keep giving them the comfort at every opportunity that whatever interaction you do with you is between you and me, and it's all privy. So there won't be any undue exposure of this to an outside world. Thanks, Puneet.
Thank you, Ashish, for sharing your insights, especially with regard to data and then like the technologies that are being used, where phygital is something which is you can say a consolidated or a combined approach for physical plus digital. And this is the best way to reach out to the customers. So coming on to you, Mohit, since you represent the all digital paisabazaar.com. So I would look forward for your insights in terms of all digital, where, with people now sheltering, shopping and working from home, working for contactless delivery and trying to obtain basic services, especially, the flexibility of working from anywhere. That is creating challenges and opportunities for more business to, more and more business. So how do you think your ecosystem has evolved and created much more business opportunities? Kindly share some insights on this.
Thank you, Puneet, and congratulations for the award. I hope
Thank you so much.
Prominent one, which you will be having it. Just to update you, 2 days back only, tested COVID positive.
Oh.
Even then, attending this exhibition is some what we call in technology is now. You can't do anything without technology. We focus
the safe recovery now.
Thank you. Still now having 102 fever, but now it's a part where you have to adopt. So it's something like not only the customers, it is the need of the hours. For any organization is the 3 things. First one is the data, for which everyone is trying to capture more and more data, even for the acquisition of the customer and how they are behaving when they are interacting with you either through website or any of your call center prospectives. Second is the technology, which everyone is trying to get in, and the systems. So now days are gone back when we are dependent on the surveys. We will define one survey form and then we will find it out what is our customer satisfaction level. Now it's on the real time basis. We are predicting on the customer sentiments and the customer values. Now the challenge goes when you are taking a decision for any of the technology, how your customer is going to respond. Either what are the tools you are going to use, because it's not the time when you start getting the feedback on real-time basis. You have to attend those complaints of the customer, and before a customer come back to you to complain something, you have to enact on an appropriate manner. Now, this is the role of your data team and the analytics side. Okay, look, the processes which we have established, it's not going to be fixed forever. You have to modify it on the real-time basis. So for me, compliance is one thing, and the customer satisfaction, which is again, when we lay a path, at what level it have been derived yesterday, now how it is going today, and what is going to be, it's going to be tomorrow. So it is not going to be something when comes up, then you have to take the challenge. It is has to be on the real time basis, because if you can't do it, your competitor is there, 60% churn is on the cards, and you can't compromise on the quality basis, because it's now what standard you paved today, it's going to be standard for tomorrow. So it's on the real time basis, you have to take a call for it. I hope I do not have any fancy terms, but I want to simplify it, how all the organization is working, because I know I am working with the different banks, insurance companies and all, how they want to increase their revenues. But as a platform, we have to look out what are the customer satisfaction level whenever they are interacting to the platform.
It's more of a web aggregation, basically, where you have insights.
It's a very interesting point that Mohit made, actually. If I may just add to it, I think Mohit made very interesting observations that it is so important to keep listening to the customer on an ongoing basis. It's not a one-off activity, but an ongoing basis. And if you listen to them on an ongoing basis and you act on their feedback, that itself will give you a significant amount of delta. Retention is one part, but I think what Mohit was alluding to is that the revenue growth could be just exponential if the customers realize that, and they would know that if you are listening to them, acting on their feedback and going back to them, as we call as closed looping in that case, in that sense, customers really love this, because why would I ever want to give you a feedback if I don't know, most of us give a feedback and we believe that nobody acts. So the minute an organization takes it seriously and acts on that feedback and addresses it, be it in terms of their process, systems, real time, as Mohit was mentioning, in terms of their people, processes, issues, customers would love this organization. They would want to interact with this organization, want to give you more and more feedback, because you really care for me. Genuinely, if you do care for me, that's the best experience. And that's something which digital transformation is all about, caring for the customer. So awesome point, Mohit. Thanks.
Absolutely, Kamlesh. I fully agree and concur with Ashish and Mohit as well, that, the wow factor that this technology transformation gives, in terms of, it is not about a personalized touch when, people used to walk into the branches or for insurance and to the insurance offices, but it is more of an engagement that, what is the sticky readiness that you have, a readiness, a consistency in making the people believe in your brand. That is what carries, a customer's experience, a wow factor, which this engagements or different forms of tools can give. I think so. It is a personalized touch only is something which really customer wants. They get excited in asking what next. So that is what, if that is taken very positively and incorporated into our corporate insights, I think so that really makes a lot of difference. So thanks for those insights. So my next question would be to Mr. Srinivas. Since you handle as the technology head for Telangana State Cooperative Banks, my question would be, how important is to analyze the need for conversational AI chatbots, or all the chatbots which is in vernacular languages, to help users enable smooth conversation during the crisis management. If you can throw some insights on how your organization has really derived or reaped benefits out of that. So I'm sorry, I came to know he's not here. So I'll leave that question to Rahul. Coming back to you, Rahul. So do you want, I can repeat the question? I can't hear you. Rahul, you are on mute.
Yeah, Puneet. So before I answer that, on a lighter note, I would like to say that last 8 years, I was too much into presentations and deck. And last 8 months, hardly any presentation been made and everything was execution.
Okay.
Right. So on this particular front, we all know that empowering the customer through self-service, IVR, informative FAQs, coming out with chatbot, you know, everything. What we used to say that it is required to be there, when we implemented, within 3 months, I would say more than 1 lakh transaction happened over chatbot, right? In the period of moratorium, even some of the EMI being paid, we have seen massive traction all of a sudden in this pandemic through our AI-based chatbot. So we enabled the service angle as well as some part of sales angle onto it. And as some of my colleagues mentioned about WhatsApp, that is also turned out to be a very handy channel. Uh, Vernacular aspect, we debated a lot, but yes, this also become a fundamental now. You have to come out with those sort of features. You cannot just say that it's an add-on. You have to say that if you're coming out with those factors, you have to come out with your regional aspect as well, considering what sort of service related volumes you are getting from some sort of region and sales related volume. So you play accordingly. uh, I have realized in last 8 months that the RBI and other regulatory authorities have been enacting in many conducive way, coming out with regulation which are supporting country's digital mission. I was overwhelmed with this UPI feature that is came up, wherein you can come out with UTI recurring factor, wherein this can help in collection a lot. We all know, especially on the NBFC side, if I talk about personal loan, we are talking about small ticket size loan a lot. And then these sort of features really help, the collection and customer experience a lot. So enabling those factors on WhatsApp, enabling those factors on chatbot, it's something that really helping a lot. So that's how I feel. I believe that there is a lot to be executed. Whatever comes to your mind these days, whatever you come across as a technology which supports your customer experience, I think just go ahead. The success will be there because our consumer are becoming more and more digital savvy, and they are there onto these assets. So I'm seeing adoption from this.
So thank you, Rahul, for sharing those insights as well. So emerging technologies is something which is really giving a personalized touch. One really needs to know what kind of customer he's serving. The serving aspect of it, especially if they are customized and personalized based on the language that they interact and communicate, it gives a very wow factor to them. They see that it is like the bank or the digital experience is all talking them and giving a personalized touch, or a person it is replaced or substituted by a manual intervention, and the person on the other end is speaking to them directly.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. So over to you, Mohit. I would like to know, since data is other data science applications today are enhancing the customer science experience. So I would like to say, how is your organization getting groomed or getting matured in terms of leveraging the data science capabilities and doing some big analytics on it? Can you throw some insights on it, please?
Yeah. In fact, we are very much focused on the data enrichment of an existing customer and the customer which we are going to target in. So it's sort of investment which is going towards the data enrichment apart from the bureaus. Now the social media data which been cultured, and it's nowadays it's all the data scientist gets in the sales term is a target for the data scientist also to find the new trends, to to segment the different customers. So I will, it may be very helpful for the Rahul also, ki if some customer have taken a loan 12 months back, so it's an probability of 78% that he is going to take a top up. That's a guaranteed. So like this, lot of insight we are working on. The secondly, out of 78%, which is going to take the top up, it's just 69% customers. Even if you increase the rate, they will going to opt the rate, and they will stick to the same organization if the same organization approach to that particular customer. So even for the home loan buyers, when they are going to churn from one particular organization to another organization, even when someone offers a lesser rate of interest, they become, if I have taken my first home loan from one particular lender and another lender is approaching to him for a balance transfer, he will not go for some 50 basis point even, in fact, because it is an emotional cut when I have taken this loan. So we have built so many different models. In fact, for the insurance level also, what sort of communication being sent to at what different level of customers, means my age is 28. What sort of communication being sent at what particular time, and at what industry they are catering to. In a simplified manner, if I say, if I want to target IT customer for a life insurance policy, and I want to bring him to the digital platform. So even before, I want something to generate the intent among the customers. So each and every level, there is a lot of data science is involved, because it's not only nowadays, it's a marketing campaign, but it has it all across is the data science which been involved, all the predictive models being consumed at each level to save a lot of cost. Because I know if you send some communication to Mohit, it involves cost to it, but Mohit is not going to respond, although he is an eligible customer. So through my model, I will predict only those customers which may be requiring your services later or sooner, and they are going to respond, because your lot of cost is involved when you are communicating through any of the channel, either it's through emailers or through SMS, through WhatsApp, everything. So it's nowadays the battle will won only through data. So I will say for any organization, it's more prominent to invest more on the data enrichment, and that is the main key differentiator between the success and the failure for any of the campaign also. When we compare all across 20 campaigns been done, but 8 perform well, 12 doesn't perform well. What are the weak points? Even for the failures, we are going to analyze what is the main key factor which is missing, because the same communication being sent to the different age and the different location also. So drilling down to each and every campaign, drilling down even for the different what we call the manufacturer. For us, it's a manufacturer. If a bank is offering, suppose an HDFC, Citibank, every bank is offering the personal loan. So they will be looking to target a specific customer segment, but they are going to respond to different communication channel. They are not going to give you an intent on the similar communication channel. Suppose for an ticket size of 50,000 to 1 lakh customer, it's very easy to send an SMS. If they require, they will respond back, because they are very small ticket size and no one is offering them. Even if we offer them 30% rate of interest, they will take it. But the kind of cut an MNC bank is offering, maybe offering very lower rate of interest. For them, SMS is something a junk. For them, the kind of communication is more important to how to bring those customers to your digital channel. It is also important how they are behaving to your different channels, how whether they are very much comfortable speaking to any of your caller, or they are more convenient in, they will say, please do not give me a call, I will connect if I require. So it's different dynamics. So a simple customer segmentation can't be done on a big suite. You need to work on each and small segments. Then you have to build a small prediction models.
Thank you, Mohit. I would like to have Kamlesh. Can you please also share your views on the question that I raised to Mohit as well?
Sure. I think very interesting observations that Mohit brought about, and I would just like to add to what Mohit said. See, a lot of us, in fact, all of us are mandated to do KYC in the financial services industry, right? KYC stands for Know Your Customer. The key question is that, do we really go beyond the documentation of KYC and really try to know what our customer is all about? And I think that's, for example, and I'm just giving very simple examples, maybe very mundane. Is that, do I know what is the customer's preferred chat? His preferred language of communicating? His preferred time, if at all? Could I have that? Does it really make sense to have that information? Do I know how his experience has been across different touchpoints? In the earlier conversation, Mohit pointed out that, when you send out surveys, it's important to know how the customer felt. But if I am really listening to the customer at each of these different touch points, interactions, some of this call it the customer satisfaction survey, some of us call it as customer effort score, some of us call it as a net promoter score. But in some and substance, each of these surveys are talking about getting to understand what really the customer felt. How did he feel? How did the interaction go? Was it frictionless? Was there an issue? Because at the end of the day, if you really know your customer, if the intent of all of this is to know your customer, then you want to know what went right so that I can do more of it, what went wrong so that I can possibly go and correct it if I can do it instantly. If it is something which is systemic, then I need to really identify what are those systemic issues and spend time to solve it. Now, bringing all of that together and getting a 360-degree view of what is really happening to the customer with an intent that not to be reactive. Of course, customer service is all about reactive. He came to me at a call center, you asked me some question, I'm expected to resolve the issue. The point is, can big data, can analytics help me to move from being reactive to proactive? And can it go to being predictive? The example that Mohit was pointing out was about predicting. Can I predict with what level of accuracy that X number of customers who are coming here would possibly come and have a particular need? Now, that need today could be about a top-up loan, could be about an additional product, could be about an additional service. Could I predict and say what is the likely to churn? And today, a lot of us use this information to predict opportunity to buy, to sell more, opportunity to cross-sell is definitely one of the biggest items and agenda items which is being used. But I see this going forward being also used to predict a likelihood to service. Like Ashish was mentioning that, you are seeing an increase in chatbots. And I'm seeing that in our end, when we see chatbots and voice bot increase, what we are beginning to see that when you are able to put in some predictive model, and of course, these are all in early stages, that if you are able to say that the next likely question the customer is going to have could be these 2 or 3, it really increases the chance of, customer feels, yeah, you seem to understand what I'm getting to, and not just the stated need, but possibly some implied need and some deeper issues which are likely to follow through are coming into your questions. I think that's a use case that I see a significant amount of shift happening to people using that for servicing as well. To also saying that, it's all about, Puneet, getting to be served before you really asked, and in a manner that you don't take me for granted. But it's just that I know that, it's like when you go to, and people talk about with so much of pride that you go to your favorite hotel, and they know exactly that, you are a non-smoker and that you prefer this type of room and this is the kind of service that you expect. And they, as you enter, they greet you and say, "Hey, Mr. Vora, how are you? Welcome back. And would you like the same room?" And, the kind of straight away taking there. It's a wow feeling that you have. So how could we build that? And that is something which only data can provide. And today, a lot of us are using data in varied manners, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg that we are touching. It's a lot of enormous information sitting there, but how do we really mine them to make more meaningful, actionable insights, be it for upsell, cross-sell, but more importantly, to add value to customers, which is possibly also in proactively servicing.
Absolutely, Kamlesh. I agree on what exactly been shared by you. Definitely, the social analytics should the customers allow, and it gives you really, when they feel that they're engaged, when they walk in next time to any, be it you're in Ola or you're any of the, if you are into a hospitality industry, the wow experience. At times when you go to the hotels, you walk in and you say, "Come, Miss Kohli, for the 15th time. How can we serve you better?" So it really sees that the people really care for you. So before we ask, it's how you get served. I absolutely agree with you. So coming to you, Ashish, as of now, we know that like the data, that is like, the data has their own challenges, but the basically the analytics is playing a very big role in cross-sell, upsell, working onto the segmentation of profiling of the customers, how to be engaged, how the organizations are using them in terms of from predictive to prescriptive, understanding. I would like to ask you about how do you feel in the digital world today, the data and its related technologies like, artificial intelligence, or you talk about cross-sell, or, the rule engines, or the algorithms, how are they accepting these challenges in, meeting up with the digital space altogether? How do you reach out to the masses? That is one thing. On the second hand, in your ecosystem, you see that the artificial intelligence powered by analytics is playing a very big role in your ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks, Puneet. To answer your first question, which is more about how our technology is sort of reacting to the new change. I think the technologies were waiting for probably. I mean, COVID is a wrong thing to give us a good example, but people were waiting. I think the technologists were sort of waiting for a change of this magnitude to sort of happen, because what it has done in the last 6 months is it's actually turned the entire, within the BFSI space, if I can talk about it, it's changed the entire BFSI space topsy-turvy, right? Things which were taken for granted in the past are no longer aspects that you can take for granted, right? Physical interactions, etc., which we were very, very sort of comfortable with, etc. People are not very comfortable doing that. So keeping that at the backdrop, what has happened is that aspects like artificial intelligence or any other techniques which require a lot of data or a lot of observation to sort of happen, virtual observations, are thriving on what is happening in the last six odd months. So just to talk about in our own company, while we've been working on a lot of AI and rule engine kind of technologies in the past, but the pace at which they've sort of progressed in the last 6 months, I think what we've traversed in the last 6 months, we would have probably, in a normal time, would have taken probably 2 years, 2.5 years to sort of traverse. Because the reality is that I think Kamlesh mentioned it right at the beginning of his first answer. The only thing constant is the customer. And the fact is that the customer's mind is also changing at the same moment. So these are the two things that are constant. Keeping these two constants in mind, you don't have a choice. Actually, we are now doing a catch-up game where we had the luxury in the past where AI, rules engine, etc. would get some time to learn, at their own pace, etc. We don't have that luxury of time anymore, because customers, believe it or not, are going to vote with their feet, right? In this case, not with their feet, they're going to vote with their fingers, because they're going to sort of choose If not Kotak, yeah, they'll go to some other bank. If not ICICI, they'll go to some other insurance company. So reality is that people are, I mean, the old adage was that people choose or they vote with their feet. They don't vote with their feet anymore. They vote with their fingers. And the reality is, the sooner we realize that and keep that at the back of the mind, I think that's how quickly some of these technologies are going to make a boon for whichever companies jump into the bandwagon. So that's the answer to the first part. In terms of our own ecosystem, I think one of the things which Kamlesh mentioned, and I think Mohit also spoke about it. I think data and the related technologies, be it artificial intelligence, related algos, and all aspects related to it, finally boil down to whether we can, give the experience or try and create an experience which the customer will actually wow. I mean, of all the experiences that, or the examples that all of us spoke about right now, we did not speak of a BFSI experience. All the experiences, like you mentioned, Puneet, or Kamlesh mentioned, was to do with the hospitality experience industry, right? It was about a hotel or something on those lines. The reality is that we are now in a space where our competition is not people within the BFSI space. Our competition is actually those guys, because they are the ones who have created that wow in the customer's mind. You can ask any person, any of your customers, which is your favorite service experience, and I'm sure there will be one, e-commerce, maybe either a, if you're a foodie, it'll be either Swiggy or Zomato, or it'll be
Uber
Amazon.
Eats.
Yeah, Uber Eats, or it'll be Amazon, which will be definitely there. Will any BFSI company be a part of that top 3 or the top 2? Very, very unlikely. I think the challenge is therefore back onto us, saying that these are the companies that have realized that data is actually the king. Data will determine how the customer actually votes, and that's the voting that's going to happen with the finger. Just touching back on one of the aspects which Kamlesh spoke about in terms of how do you create that experience, differential experience for customer. I follow 4, the way I see it, there are 4 things that typically make a difference. Okay. The first thing is, for me as a customer, you have to show me that you know me. First thing is, do you know me? Second thing is, do you show me that you know me? The third thing is, can you enable me? Because reality is, in today's world, we speak about millennials, but I can tell you my 80-year-old father is as comfortable dealing with online websites or e-commerce sites as much as my 18-year-old son is. And the last part is the aspect around value me. I think if these 4, if we keep in mind, know me, show me that you know me, enable me, and value me, if we keep these 4 at the back of the mind, because all of these will get answered with data. And the only way to answer it with data is to use technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, RPA, you can name it. And essentially, the world is going to revolve around all of this. And I fear companies which think that, these are going to take away jobs. I think they're going to add to the jobs, because the kind of skill sets that are required are going to be differential. Gone are the days when we can think about, having a 100-seater call center or a 2,000-seater call center and things like that. You will have machines taking care of it. But do you have the kind of people who recognize what the data stands for? What is the pattern of the behavior? I think those are the skill sets that need to be focused on, need to be developed. And the brands or the companies that focus on it, and especially within us, the BFSI, we have 2 actually challenges. The first challenge is, how do we ensure that we better the hospitality industry and become, the first brand of choice when it comes to a customer talking about his service experience? And the second one is, how do we use data more effectively? Because some of the examples that whether Kamlesh spoke or you spoke, recognizing the fact that you are a regular customer, the fact that you're a non-smoker, would you like a similar kind of a room or a suite that you stayed earlier? What is it? It's basically data, right? And they've just projected that data back to you. It's created a wow experience. In BFSI, somehow we've never managed to do that. So I think the sooner we recognize that the demon lies within all of us, and in the kind of movement from transactional to experiential, I think the sooner we do that, the better it is. And the technologies are all there. It's a matter of how quickly do we adapt onto it. Thanks, Puneet. Sorry, long drawn answer for a very simple question.
So I will have my last question before we run out of our time, because we are really very running out of time. So I would like to have at least the views from all the panelists out here, the challenges of digital banking in today's, what do you call it, digital Bharat or digital India? And is your bank financial institution, how it is overcoming them? Just 2 minutes views if everybody of you can share, so that before I wrap up the session, please. Yes, Rahul, we start with you.
I think
Can you unmute yourself, Rahul?
Yeah. I think the challenge is that we have to, the education continues to be one of the major challenges, starting from security to process gap. Reach is something that needs to be sorted out. I mean, even if I talk about one use case out of BFSI, the digital payments, right? India is a vast country, and 65 million merchants are there in the country. To reach to these merchants, and Puneet, you know some of the numbers that only 7% of people have those machines for, swipe machines. So to reach to these merchants, onboard them onto digital payment is a challenge. But yes, we are hopeful. The innovations like tap to phone probably get rid of those machines. We don't need those POS terminals. That is something that even I'm eyeing on, that how this play tap to phone. So these things, but education still around. If I take one use case, which is digital payment, is one, and Ashish also touched upon a lot many stuff around that, and of course the reach. We still have, while we are talking about digital, we still have lots and lots of coverage to be done. We just started, I think, we just applied those nitrogen cylinders, as you see in Fast and Furious series, that every, around every win, the last second is the nitrogen cylinder that plays for Dom. So I think we are acting Dom, but we have to apply those nitrogen cylinders to reach to that level.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. Kamlesh?
Many challenges, Puneet. So I'll just very quickly tell you top two that come to my mind. And then one is that, banks per se are having a lot of legacy systems. So how do we be more agile, nimble to bring about the changes that are required to the digital? So the challenges of run the bank or run the BFSI firm, whatever you are, and also then to transform it. So that's one challenge. The second one is that, a lot of new to, as I mentioned earlier in my conversation also with you, that a lot of first-time digital adopters coming in. With digital adoption also is the challenge that we see a lot of fraudsters coming up. Okay. So in the banking space, one of the things that I would want to be very mindful, we are very mindful of, is that what do we do of an ever increasing fraudulent transaction that might happen. So while you want to continue to make it very seamless, easy, convenient for our customers, how do we ensure that you are able to really identify a fraudster and blocking it? So those are the two big challenges, apart from the other ones which Ashish touched upon, Rahul touched upon, saying that people today vote with their fingers, they kind of move away because it's so easy to shift to another brand. So how do you kind of ensure that you are always listening and proactively working and doing things so that you are improving? So essentially you keep a regular improving pattern and build something which is very new, innovative. So those are things that you would do. So, but broadly, two big blocks for me in terms of challenges are legacy systems and the frauds as an area to work on.
Thank you, Kamlesh. Ashish?
I think I mentioned one of them when I spoke. I think the one of the biggest challenges going forward is going to be how do we move away from transactional to experiential and creating that mindset or the mind share in the customer's psyche. And the other one is, I think, similar to what most of the banks probably go through in terms of legacy systems. I think insurance, though it is 20 years old, most insurance companies have the legacy systems, and they are the ones that have actually come in from companies that have been using in whether it's Asia or Europe, right? So how do you adapt to the fact that there is a need for having technologies which the customer is comfortable with, and at the same time it needs to coexist with your legacy system? I think that's going to be the second big challenge for most of us. Thanks.
Yeah. Mohit?
I'm 100% agreed with what Rahul, Ashish, and Kamlesh spoke about the legacy and the mindset and the fraud things always comes. But I'm very positive on this side because there is no other point. Means we have to adopt it. There is no other one. दूसरा रास्ता है ही नहीं. We have to take it. Whatever these are, all the small hindrance later on we will decide, then we will discuss that. At that point we will discuss in 2020 that these are the legacy things, these are the, but now it's situation demands. When we say wow factor, it's a now factor. You have to adopt it, and the customer is ready. They are going to follow you. That's the need of the arts. So I do not find any of the challenges. This may be for some of the time where we need to be comfortable with the new things because we are new to all these dynamics. But I'm very hopeful that we will beat all the other countries across the world, because India is something like either we don't do it. Once we do it, we will cross all across the globe.
So thank you everybody for the wonderful insights being extended. So I will just summarize in 2 to 3 points what I have gained as an insight from all the industry veterans and leaders, which I shared the platform and they shared their very nice views on the customer centricity. One is definitely that the time has come where the digital experience is something which is created as a part of the wow factor, a personalization of customer experience by giving more and more engagement to the customers is something where customer is very expecting in terms of why me, why you, and what is inside for me. That is something which probably I fully agree with Ashish, which he shared, that how do you know, how you will enable me, how will you value me. So that is something which a 360-degree or a customer journey or a customer life cycle is meant about. So if the organization don't evolve, they might lose the show. So digital is the new normal. We have to adapt, but doesn't mean that the offline process also goes off. A personalized touch will always continue, and it will also continue in form of video conferencing, in terms of relationship managers reaching out to the customers, giving them engagements, talking about their brands or talking about brands portability, which will enable and say that the customer who is not fully satisfied immediately moves on to one brand to another brand. So that is about the changes the systems have to bring about. And then about the especially in terms of the insurance vertical, which is some platforms which were the legacy systems which are being very much used in India. So customer localization, which is almost a need of the hour. It is something like, think global and do local. That is what is expected to do in this digital India. And last but not the least, what I feel is that the customer centricity talks about where organizations have to evolve the digital aspects which they have already made. They need to recapitalize on whatever digitizations they have done. The rule of the thumb is that one thumb rule is that we really need to evolve every day, every basis, and understand what our customer expects, what we really need to know, what next for the customer. So that with that, I would close this session. Thank you once again. Thanks Exito for bringing us all together on this common platform. And thank you, my co-panelists. It was really wow interacting with you. And with that, I leave this, close this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.